on blast.
There is literally dust on my recorder, Sheldon. That's how long it's been and how badly I keep my house since we did an episode of You Killed It. Due to popular demand, we're going to be doing a little first time we've been doing this for You Killed It. We're doing a Q&A. We're going to be like 50 Cent and play 21 questions. I'm John Chidley Hill.
I see what you did there. Okay.
Thank you.
And I am Sheldon Alexander.
And this is You Killed It, the question and answer special edition. We got a few tweets in the past couple of weeks asking if we were going to do, some sort of off-season specials because, people are at home during this crazy time, during this pandemic, sort of at loose ends, and they had come to look forward to hearing me and Sheldon and I speak. And I mean, personally, I'm very flattered that people miss us and wanted to hear what we had to say about things sort of beyond the challenge. So Sheldon and I spoke behind the scenes, exchanged some text, and decided that what we would do is we would answer some questions. And so for the past week, we've been taking questions about the challenge and about reality TV and about love, life, feelings, about ourselves.
Oh, I missed all those questions.
Sheldon, you want to maybe explain why you missed all those questions?
It's been kind of a hectic time. Sports is back, so it's been back to work, back into the office. Those that might know, shouts to, I think it was Carrie. I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong, but I think it was Carrie at one point retweeted the other pod I do, and she's just like, I'm going through withdrawal right now, so I guess this will have to do about the Raptors pod. So, for those that know, we also do a Raptors pod here on Blast, and so it's been kind of busy, been kind of hectic back to work, and there's been big news going on in the United States, just some crazy-ish going on. Some of it affected the Toronto Raptors, and there was a video that was posted last week, and it was of the Raptors president being pushed by an officer of the law in Oakland, and I'm tiptoeing around how I say this because I don't really want to get into it, but I bring it up just to say this. Posted the video a week and a half ago, and it kind of went what they call viral, and there's still people in my mentions right now arguing about this video. And so apologies if I haven't responded to any of my challenge peeps who have been commenting or asking us questions in the mentions, because I can't even begin to explain the disgusting nature of some of the things that are in my mentions right now. So apologies to some people if I haven't gotten back to you, as we normally try to on this You Killed It podcast. But either way, appreciate the love, and shouts to John for going through and finding all these comments and questions and being able to come up with some content here for our You Killed It fans who might be missing this whole community that we've built here.
Yeah, well, fortunately, I've been on a staycation. So I've just, every time someone has tweeted at both Sheldon and I with a question, or slid into the DMs or whatever, I've been able to copy and paste it into a handy iPhone note. And then I actually, for the another first in You Killed It history, this is the most produced show we've ever done, as we actually have a shared format, which is, and we actually had a 30-second discussion about how we're going to do this. Would you say it was that much, Sheldon?
So that means this is going downhill from here.
Yeah, this is the pinnacle, guys. It's all going downhill. But yeah, let's get to the questions, because they were a lot of fun. And I do want to state, I am so pleased with all the responses we got. It was really cool. I'm pretty sure some of the questions are like a lot of long-term listeners, a lot of names that you'll recognize for sure. But there's, I think, a few people that are first-time question askers on You Killed It, which is also exciting.
Here's the thing, right? And I'm saying this in part. I'm just gonna say it. Here's the thing: as we do this podcast, You Killed It, and even going on, if I mention the other pods on Blast, whether it's Wrap It Up or Ball on Blast, something that you guys might not realize, or you might realize but you don't fully understand, is we do this for the regulars. We do this for the day ones. We do this for, you know what I mean? Like, that's why we're basically here, right? Like, if it wasn't for the lifelong or the day one listeners or the long time listeners, there wouldn't really be a podcast, because the energy we get from reading the comments, or feeling the same vibes as we are while we watch episodes, and just hearing feedback from you guys and sharing ideas, even when you guys tell us that we're wrong, or tell us that we're wrong, tell us that we're stupid, or whatever, even agree with us. That's really why we do this. Like, it's not for any other reason. It's not because we like hearing the sounds of our voice, because personally I dislike the sound of my voice, but you know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah, when you mentioned that most of the comments are for the day ones, of course they are. That's exactly what we'd expect, and that's exactly why we're doing this.
Sheldon, I love the sound of my own voice, and I am most excited to answer the questions about us, because talking about myself is my favorite topic. So,
oh man. Am I allowed to pass?
Yeah, sure. You can pass. I think I'm going to be able to answer every question. I've had the advantage of like looking at the questions for longer and like thinking about them. But yeah, you can pass. I'm certainly gonna like tackle. I think I'm gonna be able to answer every question.
Okay.
I think I can do it. Let's start. Jordan Reginato and Lucas Wyatt both asked, who is our favorite male and female challenge contestant of all time, and why?
Wow. Of all time.
All time.
Do you have yours right off the bat?
Yeah, sure. I would say of the women, I think I'm going with Smashley.
Oh, okay.
Because
interesting.
I like how she plays the game, and like she's so unpredictable. Like,
yeah,
there's other really great competitors, but you know what they're gonna do, right? Like,
yeah.
You know how a Johnny Bananas plotline is gonna play out, more or less.
Yeah.
You certainly know what, but like, is Smashley gonna win the season, or is she gonna quit after the first night? Who's to say? You don't know.
Yeah.
But she's also like very competent. Like, she's a two-time champion. She has made finals. Like, she can back it up. So I'd say Smashley, just as we always say, a five-tool player.
I'll say my favorite female competitor is Laurel, and it's just because she's an absolute beast. She might be my favorite challenge competitor, period, just because I think like the domination. We use sports analogies all the time, right? And when you watch LeBron dominate, or Kobe dominate, or Mike dominate, or switch to whatever sport, you like watching that. You like watching greatness. So when it comes to challenge greatness, Laurel's a beast. There's been few times where you've seen Laurel get dominated. She would probably win every single season, if not for, bad gameplay or things that make the challenge a challenge. You know what I'm saying? But on top of that, newer people to the challenge might see Laurel still be the physical competitor, but old school challenge people might remember Laurel the partier as well. Like, Laurel, we're talking Smashley 5-tool player. Laurel's been in these streets having a good time on the challenge for a very long time as well. So, yeah. If you're asking me my favorite female competitor, Laurel.
I'd say Laurel like crossed my mind for a minute, and then I decided to go with Smashley, because I'm very much thinking in terms of like where I am August 2020.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
And on that note, I find answering who's my favorite male competitor of all time a lot harder, because my tastes have evolved.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Like 10 years ago, the people I was cheering for are not the people I would cheer now. And like when I go back and if I were to go back and watch old seasons, I would be less into what they're about.
Yeah.
So I'm going with, for male competitors, Wes. Because I find Wes really entertaining. Yeah, I'm going with Wes. Even then, like, it's tough because like I have a runner-up that's like neck and neck with Wes, but
okay.
I'm leaving it open for you because you might say my runner-up as your number one.
I'm kind of surprised that you would think that you know what I'm going to pick because I kind of think I'm off the board here.
Oh!
My favorite male competitor is Roy Lee!
See, I thought you were going to say Leroy, honestly. The other one in my conversation is CT, but go ahead.
Yeah, so Leroy is just a nice guy. Yeah. And, you know, obviously, an early Leroy was in these streets having fun, like Laurel, right? But in terms of challenge gameplay, Leroy is just a good dude. He's managed to be aligned with Johnny Bananas for so long, but without the stank of Johnny Bananas, which is hard to do if you really think about it. And again, as you mentioned 2020 and where we are with the challenge now. Johnny Bananas kind of had like a makeover in his challenge career, right? So it even feels kind of odd talking about him currently as like this villain or someone that people really are annoyed with, right? Because that wasn't the most recent version of him that we've seen. But yeah, Leroy is just a good dude, and I think that matters a lot. Like, the biggest thing we talk about all the time is, would you have a drink with this person? Would you want to hang out with these people? Like that type of thing. And Leroy is definitely just a nice guy. And even if you go back to his Real World season, like, we'll always remember one of the best bromances in show history is him and Mike, right? Yeah. So, like, you just see that, and you just good peoples. And always going to be about good peoples. That's why we watch the show. Mm-hmm.
All right, next question.
And sorry, he's become the one last thing I'll say too. He's almost become the underdog story in terms of you want to see him win, and it hasn't happened yet, but you want to see it happen at some point. So that also adds to the allure of each season when he comes back. It's like, is this going to be the season that he figures it out and can win?
Yeah, and like that's, I mean, I think if Leroy wins a season, I think people will be ecstatic because I think you're not alone. I think he's really well liked and really well respected, and just like, you're rooting for him. And we've also seen him mature a lot too. Like, he was always a good guy, but we've seen him like that season War of the Worlds 2. He was such a leader. In the for the Team US, right? Like, he was the only one that really had his eye on the prize throughout.
Yeah, for sure.
Several people want to know what our favorite season is, and Eric also asked what our least favorite season or format was.
You know what's weird? I don't have, like, this is going to sound like a cop-out, but trust me, it's not. My favorite season of the challenge is always the current season of the challenge. Okay. Because every single time that we get to, like, I've said this on record, so I'm not copping out, I promise you. Nothing gets me more hype than the first trailer of the challenge. Like, when the first episode ends of the season, and it's like, this season on the challenge, that always gets me so hype. And in that moment, those first few episodes, you're always just like, this show's so good. And it never fails. No matter which season it is, right? Always those first few episodes of the challenge of like, this is the best. And so I'm not one of the people that go back and watch prior seasons. Do you know what I'm saying? But, so I feel like I'm on the same like wavelength every season in terms of it starts out and it's amazing, and then there's a point where all the shenanigans kind of stop and the gameplay becomes way more serious, and then you're kind of just waiting out until the final. Like, every season is almost the same in a certain way. Do you know what I'm saying? And so in that sense, So I'm not copping out, but that's kind of my answer, which, apologies if some people think that's a cop-out.
No, I think it's a very legitimate answer. For me, it's Fresh Meat 2 for multiple reasons. First of all, it's in Canada, so, our home and native land.
Okay.
Second of all, it's the first full season of The Challenge that I watched. And it's what got me hooked on the show. If you haven't seen Fresh Meat 2, I strongly recommend it. To me, it's the beginning of the modern challenge. It's got one of the most compelling storylines in terms of in competition, who's going to win this season. And it also introduced so many of the castmates that we know today. That was Kara's first season. That was Laurel's first season. That was Teresa's first season. And it really sort of explained what the dynamic was going to be for the next 5 years in terms of how the house was divided.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it, and it's what led to Rivals, which was also obviously a big
Rivals. The Rivals series was just awesome, right? Because that to me was really cool in the sense of just from a gameplay standpoint. Mm-hmm. Why I've always thought the challenge, we kind of touched on this a couple weeks ago. I don't remember what the context was when we were talking about the challenge not getting enough credit for for its place in reality TV. But in terms of these competition shows, the ability to keep just remixing your seasons and the whole concept of, okay, well, here's past competitors, but we're now bringing you back and you have to work with someone you desperately despise. And when they would run the montages, the season starts and it's oh, you're partnered with this person, and then you get the little montage of them beefing the prior season. It's just such great producing, such great storytelling, such great showmaking, reality TV at its best. So yeah, you're right about the Rival seasons. The Rival seasons are definitely dope, and I think those seasons don't get enough credit for what they've done for Survivor or Big Brother or shows like that get probably more mainstream attention than the challenge does.
And my least favorite season is The Island. Maybe the hardest watch, because by the end everyone is just miserable. Basically, people aren't speaking to each other by the end. No one is especially likable that season, and there's one guy, he's not on the show anymore, Dan, I forget his last name, but
I don't remember.
He's over the course of the season, he's sinking into his alcoholism. And obviously have free access to booze, and everyone's really concerned about him. It's really not a great and the format's really bad because they're definitely trying to get that Survivor energy. It's really not. There's island voting and it's one of the worst finales ever. It's no good, man.
So I don't. And apologies if I'm ruining this. Just tell me that I'm ruining this because someone probably asked this question. But I was gonna what's the favorite kind of gimmick in terms of, we've seen the Ruins, there's been Battle of the Exes, there's been Rivals, War of the Worlds. Is that one of the questions that someone asked?
It is. We can answer it now.
Okay, never mind. No. Save it. Never mind. Disregard this whole part.
Okay. Well, then Holly McNeil wants to know, what are our top challenge moments of all time, especially from seasons that we have not covered? So top 3 from each of us, if you can come up with 3. I can come up with 3.
3 moments. Well, for sure the backpack moment is that's the first one everyone always goes to.
The Johnny Bananas backpack is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's CT just showing his dominance, and it's also, people who might be new to the challenge listening to this podcast. I always think I'm never gonna go back and watch challenge seasons, right? Like, it's just too long. It's so much of an investment, and it's kind of was a moment in time that I'd like to leave in that moment in time. You know what I mean? But I always think about how funny it would be to go back and watch because of how different things are in terms of there are people who have no idea of what CT the Beast was really like, and he was an animal, and to dominate another grown-ass man like that in an elimination, which you see how other people have done that challenge, where for people who might not know what we're talking about, which I don't think that's possible, but just in case, like, you're strapped to each other, like, back to back, and you basically had to pull your opponent, like, to a line 10 feet ahead of you or whatever, right? And CT was able to just pick Bananas up off his back, like, pick him up and carry him all the way to the end. Like, pick whatever sport you want, that play by CT is up there. I'm not making hyperbole. I'm not, like, that is just a dominating performance that I don't know. I clearly have never seen anything like it in challenge history or reality TV history. And it's just incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Whenever I see it, all I think about is, like, have you ever tried to pick up an upset child, like a baby that wants to go play, a toddler that wants to go play? It's really difficult, right? Like, if someone does not want to be picked up, they can twist and they can squirm.
Yeah.
And that's like for like a 30 or 40 pound child. Johnny Bananas at that point must have weighed like 200 pounds.
Yeah.
For CT got up and walked like he was carrying the groceries. Like, it's
pretty much
insane. And like fully he's carrying Johnny Bananas' weight completely. Like, Johnny is not touching the ground and is struggling as much as he can. And CT like walks 50 feet in like 10 seconds and just drops him. Like, it's nuts.
I mean, it's funny too, because if you think of it, and I gotta stop apologizing for making sports references. I feel like people
know what we're about.
Podcast, yeah, you kind of get it. But the fact that it's referred to as the backpack, and you think of like just iconic sports moments like the catch, the shot, right? Like, or even the golden goal for our Canadian fans. But do you know what I mean? Like, the fact that it's just it has its own name, it is just a great sports moment.
Yeah. Another classic moment for me, top 3 moment for me, was when on Rivals, this is Rivals Season 1, where CT yelled at Wes for like 12 hours. And they had to show it in a montage where he's just like sitting beside Wes talking, and like Wes is just standing there taking it, like barely replying. Yeah.
Oh, is that one of your that's okay. Okay. This might be kind of controversial.
All right.
Because I'm calling it one of the best moments, and I know that a lot of people don't like him for this moment. But Bananas stealing the money from what's her name? Sarah. That is one of the best moments in challenge history. Like, I don't care what anyone wants to say. You might hate it. You might dislike it. You might think that he's being a jackass. But my question to you is, are you not entertained? Like, that made you feel something. Like, in the moment, watching it, even if you thought it was going to happen, however you felt, it made you feel something. And that is what entertainment is about. You watched it, you liked it, it made you feel a certain way about it. That is a legendary moment in the challenge, because, and again, going to other television shows, you never even thought of seeing something like that on Survivor or Big Brother or whatever other show you want to compare to this, right? So, to me, that is an iconic moment.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. The third one is tough. I'm sort of torn between two. But I think what I'm going to go with is when CT and Adam K, yeah, that's right, all 3 of my moments feature CT, lost in the it wasn't Hall Brawl, but when they were against Johnny and Tyler.
Was it the choo-choo train thing?
The pain train.
Yeah.
Especially after they lost, and CT like puts his arm around Adam, forgives him for losing, and for being honest, probably throwing the competition. Okay. And goes, "Are we friends again?" Because all season, there was a rival season. All season, CT constantly asked Adam, "Are we friends again? Are we friends again? Can we be friends again?" And so, like, him just, like, doggedly trying to restore his friendship with Adam K. So so, like, that whole sequence of, like, CT just, like, dummying Johnny and Tyler.
Yeah, the choo-choo train is a thing.
Adam losing, probably throwing it, and CT still being like, "Can we please be friends again?" And, like, trying to restore that. The whole, like, all the emotional beats, everything that it was sort of like the culmination of a season-long storyline that did not disappoint.
Yeah, I was in a YouTube hole maybe like a month ago, and the CT and Adam fight popped up on YouTube. And for people who might not remember it, or even if you did watch that season and it's just been a while since you've seen it, it deserves a rewatch, just because it's like, again, to where the challenge is now, it's a different show. There's still elements that keep us around, but that scene was just like, oh yes, I remember that challenge, right? Like, just the absolute chaos of, like, 5 dudes trying to hold CT back, and he's just destroying the whole room. Oh yeah, it's just, it was legendary. That is not one of my moments though. My last moment, I guess, is a funnier moment, I guess. And, you know, it's kind of funnier because you got to remember, I guess, the course of what was happening during the season of Rivals. And Kenny and Wes and their battles that they've had, but also Wes doing work, right? Doing work for the majority of the season. But then when it came to the final, Wes was kind of done. And Kenny literally picked up Wes, threw him over his shoulder, and was carrying him up the mountain. Kenny is kind of like a challenge legend that, as more and more seasons of the challenge continue, he kind of gets forgotten. And it's kind of like he might have been the Johnny Bananas, right? Like, if everything stayed the same and they were allowed to still be on the show, which we don't really got to get into all that side of it, but I'll say Kenny probably would have been what Johnny Bananas is, if not a better version of what Johnny Bananas is in terms of the face of the challenge, right? And hosting all these different shows and whatever. So that's also why it's a big deal to me, because he was such a big, important part of the old school challenge days. But just that scene of him carrying Wes up the mountain and understanding their relationship in terms of being actual rivals is just an incredible moment.
Drew Hans wants to know, what theme or format do you think they should bring back that they haven't done in a while?
Ooh. Theme or format?
So this sort of ties to your question earlier about, like, what's your favorite gimmick?
Do you know what? I'm probably going to go with, I always think there's two, and I'm trying to decide between the two.
I have an answer, so I can answer and buy you some time.
Go. Yeah.
I really liked Battle of the Seasons.
That's so funny, because okay, go on. Yeah.
I liked Battle of the Seasons because I thought it was an interesting format that a team could be eliminated basically after 2 shitty weeks, right? And I liked that they, you know, sometimes there'd be like a shitty pairing that they would, like, try to get rid of and be like, okay, maybe we can win this just the 2 of us. And I also like that, like, sometimes, like, some seasons got along and that was to their strength. Some seasons didn't get along. And it was just like a real mix of personalities. And I really like that format. I don't know. I thought it was fun, and like I think it'd be really interesting to bring it back, especially now that they've opened the show up to many other shows. Like when they last did it was just Real World and Road Rules. But if they had like I don't know, Big Brother season 20 and The Bachelor and Geordie Shore team and stuff like that, like I think it'd be really fun and interesting to see like how would they make it work.
No, I totally agree with you. I like that. That was one of the choices I was kind of fighting between, because it is just so simple and easy to do, and just such a good just gimmick. But I'm still gonna kind of cheat and pick two. Okay. And the reason is so
because it's our show and we can do what we want.
Pretty much, yeah. But it's kind of the same theme. So it's between Rivals and Battle of the Exes, and because kind of it's on the same wavelength, right? Mm-hmm. And Battle of the Exes, the first time you do it is good because you actually have exes, right? As you go along, it starts to be a stretch, like, oh, these people hooked up once on the show, and now they don't talk, so now they're exes, like it's kind of a stretch. But just the premise of you having to work with someone who we've seen you beef with on the same show, I think the Rivals theme will always go down as being the best, just because it's built-in drama, right? Mm-hmm. And we've seen over the years, there's so many different ways for the strategy to work. You have times where you've seen people sabotage, right? You've had times like, okay, well, you're trying to build an alliance, but how can you build an alliance if one of the people you don't really mess with? So who's going to be like, there's just so much built-in strategy to it that it just becomes such a good season. Because you have built-in drama. And as mentioned, the Wes and Kenny, that drama is so good.
Well, the Wes and Kenny rivalry really, really like blossomed on Fresh Meat 2, which again is why I love that season. Like the whole season boils down to like this house 50% is behind Wes and 50% is behind Kenny, and they are just like doing everything they can to ruin each other all season. It's great. It's
still kind of crazy how did Kenny and Laurel not win? That might be one of the best duos ever.
They just dominated too. Like it's
right.
If you haven't seen it, like please go on MTV.ca or go on CBS All Access and check out Fresh Meat 2. Like it is just like such a narrative, and like there's so many twists and turns. Our next question, Paolo Larigio wants to know, how are you so awesome? It's plural you. Don't take all the credit here, Sheldon.
Just me.
Just you? It's just Sheldon carrying it?
That's it.
I'd say, as a show, we're so awesome, because I'm not going to be selfish, Sheldon. As a show, I think what makes us the key to our success is that we've been really consistent.
Okay.
That we come out every week that there is an episode of the challenge, and like we've recorded when I was in France, when I was in Mexico, like we have overcome time zone differences. We have overcome like abilities to stream. And I think that consistency has been our biggest strength.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the other part is like we, when people do shows or they host shows, I think a lot of people kind of get it misconstrued. And I even just stumbled because I was saying host of the show, because I don't really look at it like that, right? Like I've always looked at these projects, whichever ones they are, we're having a conversation with people, right? Like the best podcasts that I listen to, I feel like I know the people that I'm listening to, even though I've never met them. That feels, and that sounds like a weird thing to say. The best example I'll give is probably the Dan Le Batard show, his radio show. I love that show. And it sounds like, and the reason why I love it is because you're listening to a group of people working together, talking about whatever the heck they want to talk about. And, you know, those are the best shows when you're not thinking of it in terms of me or the host talking at you or talking to you, but they're speaking with you. And I think that's what we've always kind of tried to do, whether it's, you know, taking in people's comments or reading people's comments, or just like trying to have a pulse in terms of what the people are saying about the challenge, or even just about the show, which, you know, is how we end up here where we're doing this show when there is no challenge season on right now. But I think that's really a key part of it, right? Like, not taking it too seriously, not thinking that, hey, just because we said this, we're right.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're watching a television show, right? And we're watching a reality TV show and talking about it. Like, it's not that serious. And that's a big part of it.
We're also genuinely friends, which helps a lot. Like, we talk about things outside the challenge. Obviously, people know we went to high school together. We work in the same industry. We have a lot of mutual friends.
Yeah.
Both from high school and from, like, our industry. So it just, like, I don't know. I think it comes off our banter, as people have called it, as very natural. But this is also just the way we speak to each other. So I think it shows that we are friends IRL. Also, one of my favorite things to do that I do when we're recording, and I know you know I do this, is I purposely say ridiculous things just to make you laugh. I don't necessarily do that in real life, but I do it on this show because it amuses me.
I'm aware. It happens. It happens. It happens.
So, Jordan Reginato has another question. He wants to know, if we are both stuck on a deserted island for a year, but can bring one thing we currently own, what is it?
My iPhone?
See, I thought about an iPhone, but I'm also, like, assuming that I wouldn't have bars. So, like...
Okay. That's a great question. That's a great question.
I'm gonna go with... See, it's...
No, I'm sticking with my iPhone.
Okay.
I'll figure out a way.
Yeah, you'll climb up a palm tree and, like, try to get some signal?
Some corner of the island, I'll get some bars, man.
I want to say Swiss Army knife, but I don't think I have a Swiss Army knife.
5G, man, 5G.
Sorry, Jordan, those weren't very good answers, but I don't know. A first aid kit? Like... I don't know, man.
I can do everything off my iPhone. I can get, like, Uber Eats to the island.
And then ask the guy to take you with him, or?
No, I thought that the whole thing was we get to stay on the island.
I guess it is just a year. Yeah, if it's for a year and there's, like, an end, then I'm for sure just, like...
I can order Amazon things to the island. Oh, I'm good with my iPhone.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. Drew asks another question. He wants to know, who would you like to see come back in the future that hasn't been on the last few seasons?
Who would I like to see come back? There's a couple people. I always want to see Laurel back on the challenge because I think, as mentioned, I think Laurel's just a good competitor. Emily, I think, would be someone that'd be cool to come back.
Emily Schramm is high on my list for sure.
Yeah, she's good people's and a great competitor. Although I will say, like, early Emily, who, like, was still, like, fun in the house, was obviously better than later on Emily. Like, Emily kind of represented the challenge transitioning from, and it's not just her, but I'm saying, like, she's one of the people that represents a challenge transitioning from the show of quote-unquote regular people just being on a show competing to, like, the CrossFit generation of the challenge people who, you know, are, like, training to come on the seasons and all that. But yeah, with that said, she's still a nice person and a cool person to hang out with. So I think, I'd like to see her come back. And there's someone else that I was just about to say. A guy. Oh, Darrell.
Oh, yeah.
Darrell's good people. He's a great competitor as well. I like to see how he would do against, some of the, him against, what's my guy, Turbo, or like just some of the like quote unquote badass people.
Is Turbo your guy now?
No, but Turbo? I just mean in terms of like the strong male competitors, right? Darrell is one of the best male competitors there's ever been on the challenge, so I'd be interested to see how he'd do against some of the new school peeps, how he would do against the young bucks, even though I know he's gone against them a bit, but yeah.
I'd like to see Devin come back because the last season he was on, he was clearly not in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
But he's gotten really fit, and he was really, really smart. And as the typical cast sort of shifts to more his generation, I'd be interested to see what he could do. Like, for all, like, when you look at all, like, the young bucks and whatnot, there's no one... like the sort of young bucks vintage, the Geordie Shore vintage, there's no one that's like a master manipulator like a Wes or a Johnny. And like I think Devin could fill that role.
No, that's fair.
So he's like, I find him pretty funny. I know a lot of people dislike him, but like that also could make for good TV, knowing that people hate him so much. He's a bit of a lightning rod.
Okay.
Molly Gibson Kirby wants to know, if we could do a Freaky Friday and switch bodies for one day, what would be the first thing we'd do as each other?
Wow. Okay. This is going to sound completely random.
Love it.
But I would teach a class.
Oh.
That sounds random. I know. You're probably like, really? Of all things? But it's because, the reason being is because I just think that's really cool. Being a teacher as well. Or, not, I shouldn't just limit it to being a teacher, but I think influencing the next generation of creators. That is a very important job, and it must feel very rewarding. And, being able to shape and mold the next generation of sports journalists, that's pretty cool.
Wow, I'm very flattered.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Wow,
that
thank you.
You do a very good job with, as I've met some of your alumni, I'll say.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sheldon. I think I really admire your drive, like your energy. Like, there's some days where I don't know how you sleep. Because, like, you're, like, so busy.
No comment, but okay.
No, but I mean, like...
No.
The amount of content you put out is what I would want to, like, tap into. I don't know how I would do that. But, like... Yeah, like, just the fact that you have, like, 2 or 3 podcasts going all the time. You do video production... Like, you're all over the socials. Yeah, I'd want to, like, tap into that energy and, like, learn from how you stay so motivated. Because I am not nearly as motivated as you are on a daily basis. I'm more peaks and valleys, where you're a constant.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Jordan Reginato wants to know, what do you think is the worst challenge gameplay move that you can remember? And he's saying, like, don't count fights that got people kicked off, because those are obviously dumb moves. He means, like, a purposeful manipulation that did not work out, or, like, backfired in some way.
Any of Josh's any of Josh's strategic moves the past 4 seasons that he's been on?
I mean, that's a really good question. Good answer. I think for me, man, we're talking about Rivals a lot, but that season of Rivals...
It's a great season.
And everyone was so determined to get CT and Adam out And they got into this like mentality of like, oh, I'm gonna volunteer, like it's gonna be me that takes them out, and like then CT and Adam would send them packing.
Yeah.
And like to me that was dumb. Of like constantly like putting up your allies to take out a team.
Yeah.
Rather than like put up your enemies to take out a team. Like it was very weird.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I think it's that season will go down just because there's so much going on, right? And, you know, you're rooting for CT, who is kind of the villain, but because of Adam, their team, you're kind of rooting for them. But Adam kind of wasn't in on it with CT. It's just such a weird season, but a good season. So I get it. I also think the moves, War of the Worlds, the moves, like the Team USA, they really kind of messed that whole thing up. Like, in the worst way. In the absolute worst way, right? There's no way they should have lost a game that they've been playing against, you know, the Brits, but they just played themselves.
Yeah, and over and over and over again, and could not get over their own bullshit.
Exactly. They were worried. They were so worried about getting each other out, despite the fact that they were on the same team. They played themselves. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Gordon Graham wants to know, how long is it? And Gordon, I'm so glad you asked. The typical episode of You Killed It is about the same length as the episode of the challenge that we're recapping. Right? Like, it's usually about a minute for minute recap because we've got a lot of practice at this point. But, yeah, that's typically how it works out. Unless there's something that gets us really hot that we need to break down. And then we go a little bit longer. But it's usually about a minute for minute translation. Gord's going to be pissed. That is not what he was going for at all. Maddie Cunning.
No comment.
Maddie Cunning wants to know, what is your all-time favorite memory of one another?
I don't know if this is all-time, but one that I would say was pretty cool was, I think the first time, so obviously, yeah, as mentioned, we went to high school together, cool, but then hadn't seen you in a really long time, and then there was a game that we were both covering for the Raptors, and I remember sitting down and then looking across and being like, oh, hey. And I just think that moment, again, it's not like all time, but I think it's kind of cool when you think back to whatever, grade 9, and then you fast forward all these years later, and it's like, you know, it's one of those moments where you realize you don't give yourselves enough credit for how far you've come or where you've gotten to. If that makes sense, because like that's like when you think of it, like what are the chances of that, right? Like that's not an easy, and I'm not saying this to like big ourselves up. I'm just saying in reality, that's not an easy place to get to, right? And so if you think back to, you know, grade 9 or grade 10 or whatever class, take your pick, and then you fast forward to, okay, covering the professional basketball team in your city, that's pretty cool. And that was just a really cool moment. That's all.
Yeah. I will say that's one of my favorite memories of you as well. We won't get into details, but like one of the fun little sides of that story is I nearly got into a fist fight with someone like 5 minutes later, because I won't get into the details. I know you remember this story, and if not, I'll remind you afterwards.
Ooh, wow, I don't remember this.
I
need my memory jogged. No, don't tell the story.
No, I'll tell the story, but I won't say the name.
Okay.
So you and I were having a conversation in the Raptors media room, and like we're sort of standing in the middle, and at the time it was like really tightly packed.
Yeah.
And another reporter who I know, and at that point I'd only known for like 2 or 3 weeks, he got up and made the conscious decision to walk between you and I, and body checked me, like put his shoulder into me, and kept going by. I was like, I'm sorry, blank. And he turned around and looked at us and said, fuck you. And I was I was pretty steamed at that point. And I'll be honest, it was like 7 years ago, and I still haven't forgiven that person. Like, I think of it
It's got to be longer than 7 years ago.
8 years max. Maybe 9 years, but like...
Okay, yeah, maybe, yeah, okay.
But, yeah, I think now that I've jogged your memory, I think you know who I'm talking about. He's still in...
Yeah. I know
sports journalism, so I can't say the name, but yeah, I was super pissed. Still salty about it. My favorite memory of you, though, is more recent. It was actually just like a week ago, and that was I woke up and checked Twitter because I'm a fiend like that. Okay. And your tweet of the video of Masai Ujiri and that Alameda County Sheriff had taken off. Like, it had already taken off when I saw it.
Yeah.
And I was so proud of you and pleased to see that, like, you were the first person on it and the deserving attention you got, the deserving positive attention that you got for disclosing that. And it really made waves here in Canada. And like elsewhere, like in the United States and stuff, obviously a bigger deal in Canada because the Raptors are Canada's basketball team. But just the way you brought it to the world, you stuck to your morals and your opinions that are obviously very well founded. And I was really proud of you in that moment, and to see you taking off like that. Even if it, like, your mentions are shitty right now, like, it was definitely worth it. And I think it's an issue that people needed to see.
Yeah, and you know, me complaining about my mentions isn't I hope it doesn't get misconstrued, because, like, the reality is you can just put your phone down.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
And so, like, it's not like there's way worse things going on in the world than, like, oh no, my mentions are blowing up, right? I think what happened, though, was me getting not jaded, but, like, reading people arguing, like people making arguments for the police officer. Oh, well, he didn't show his pass. Oh, well, he didn't do, right? And it's like that side of it was kind of like, okay, I got to put my phone down now because the bots or the people trying to be bots is just too much right now. No, but I appreciate you saying that, man. It's just a thing where it was an interesting lesson. Right, and it was kind of weird as well when someone messaged me and they were like, yo, you know, the video's at like 1 million views. And that kind of was weird to process.
Yeah.
Right, because like you never really thought of, right? And you know, the other thing I want to say that's kind of super important to me as well in this era of what happens in media is people trying to parlay or glorify something for their own gain. Mm-hmm. Right? And I'm tiptoeing a lot when I'm through this conversation. But one thing that was super important to me was I just wanted to put the video out there, and I worded it specifically for that reason, that, you know, I wasn't just gonna like swear about the cop or be super angry. But I did also want to make a statement at the same time, and it was just simply, this guy's a clown, because he is. But yeah, like, at the same time, here's the video, watch for yourselves and see why this guy's a clown. And I just think, you know, that part of it was interesting for me to see and kind of, you know, gather the response, but see what actually get the lesson from social media and just how that side of it works. Right? And like choosing your words carefully, which a lot of people don't do on social media. I think that's a massive part of it. And you know what? I will say this. Also, seeing the people who would reach out to you after that, or would retweet your video after that, and the people who didn't. It was a very interesting lesson and on a lot of different levels. And yeah, you know, I wish it wasn't. I wish it was under different circumstances, and you know, I like ended up going on the news to talk about it the next day, like local news here in Toronto or Hamilton, GTA area here, which was interesting. And I wish all those things happened under different circumstances, but speaking to you about this, like someone who's an actual journalist, and sometimes I don't, my career's taken a lot of weird different turns, right? And there's been points where, yeah, I write stories, I write like legitimate stories and stuff, and I've done that before. But to have it was a good reminder to me, and I think a good reminder to others, of just like what it is that we do here, or what we do, or what we're capable of, I guess is a better way of saying it. Because if you have the platform, you got to use it for certain things.
Yeah.
I've been very careful about not arguing with people on Twitter. You haven't really seen me, even the past week, I've been kind of quiet on Twitter just because of the Jacob Blake stuff and what's going on again, and I don't really want to be out here arguing or, soapboxing or anything like that. But it was funny, in one of my group texts with a couple friends in Centennial grads, actually, it was funny because we were talking about it, and one of my friends in the group was the one that sent the body cam footage. And after when I posted that and it started flying as well, it was just interesting to me. Like, we were talking about like how, oh, look, like the tweets going everywhere. But it was interesting for us as I looked at it and thought of our Centennial class, right? And it's like, that side of it's kind of cool to kind of just the reminder of where we all met, but also where we all are, and also just the role that you have with your platform and how you choose to use your platform. That to me was an interesting reminder and an interesting thing, because I said this on another pod, on the Raps pod. Obviously, I didn't have to post that for people to see the video. That's not what I'm getting at, or not what I'm saying. Obviously the video would have been out there without me doing it. In my mind, though, it was a lesson for social media in the industry in terms of certain things you don't put behind paywalls, right?
Yeah.
Certain things you don't put behind a paywall embedded in an article. Certain things you need to get out for people to see so that they understand why we march, or why we kneel, or why we protest. And that video was super important because, as I stated, there's some people who see that video and they just think that it's about, oh, you didn't show your pass to this guy and he didn't let you through. And then there's another segment of the population that'll see that video and they're taken aback because they're reflecting on their own personal experience to where they've been in that exact moment where you can't really explain to people where, I don't even want to get down of going too far down this road, but I just thought it was an important video to say. And I'm stopping because I don't want to go too far down this road, and I don't want to change the narrative of this pod or whatever. I'll just take your compliment and say thank you, and I appreciate it.
Well, on a slightly lighter note, Maddie also asked, specifically to you, Sheldon, are you or are you not in the Raptors virtual crowd?
No, I'm definitely not in the Raptors virtual crowd. That was not a thing. That was not me. If you thought that you saw me in the Raptors virtual crowd, it's not me. No. I'm not that big time.
Not yet. Lawrence Thomas wants to know, when is the live after show podcast coming for the challenge?
I mean, I guess we gotta start with, when are live any shows back?
I would like to do that, but the reality is...
Sorry. I'm misconstruing this. Are we talking about like us,
for you,
like how we're doing the show right now? No. Follow me though. Are we talking about us doing the show right now, like as like right now, or are we talking like a live, like in person with an audience?
Oh,
live
I don't know.
Show
I took it that Lawrence meant that we would, much like you do it with the Wrap It Up podcast, like where as soon as it ends, you go live. As soon as the Raptors game ends, you go live. I think that's what Lawrence is suggesting. My issue, like, I love that idea. My problem with that is things are weird because of the pandemic, but you and I work strange hours. And the reason why we got into recording You Killed It the next morning is because to consistently record at night used to be impossible. My job is in a really weird place right now. For those of you that like follow me on Twitter, like it's no secret, I don't mention it a lot on the podcast, but my job is I'm a sports reporter with the Canadian Press, which is Canada's leading wire service. It's like our version of the Associated Press. Typically, when I'm working in sports, I work from 7 p.m. till 2 a.m. or like 5 p.m. till midnight because I'm covering sports and I'm waiting for like the West Coast to wrap up. And like that's both reporting and editing. But right now, since the pandemic began, I've been working in our hard news department, our Ontario desk, covering things happening in Ontario, which means working during the day, like 9 to 5, pretty much. But like I'm sort of switching between the two right now. Like some days I'm doing one, other days I'm doing the other, some days I'm doing both. Like I'm sort of all over the map. So like it's really my schedule that's more difficult to do that sort of thing. Like it'd be hard to go immediately live to air, especially if I'm like at Scotiabank Arena or at Rogers Center. Like it wouldn't like I can't usually watch the show live, let alone record. Yeah. So that's the thing. I mean, like I like the idea in theory, but
yeah, I mean, I think if we ever could make it work, we would, because I think it's also like technically from a production and post-production standpoint, it's honestly easier to do it live. But yeah, I mean, schedules are tough, and obviously depending on when the challenge season is, if it's during the basketball season, that makes it a lot more difficult for both of us as well. But yeah, no, the idea is there for sure. But if you were talking about, yeah, for sure. And, you know, again, like if you were talking about an actual like live show, like in front of an audience, that's also something we've talked about before.
Yeah.
But I just don't know when any of those things will be possibilities going forward, just because gatherings indoors and all that fun stuff. But yeah, no, those things are on the table. Those things would be fun. But you know what, Mr. Lawrence Thomas, you would be one of the first people to know.
That's when true. LT would be
get greenlit.
LT, if we did like an in-person one, you would be like the opening act. Like you would be roped in so fast.
Yes.
He also wants to know, or he's also suggesting, he highly recommends that we do a say something nice about blank every season. There's always at least one annoying cast member every season.
I can't agree to this. I cannot agree to this because at one point we're going to be asked to say something nice about Josh every episode, and I'm not going to do that.
Eric asks, say something nice about Josh. I'm dead serious. That's the next question.
I'm just shaking my head right now. No.
My concern is...
Hold on. And like, is it true? Sorry. This isn't something nice about Josh, but this is something about Josh. Is it true that he was supposed to be on this season of Big Brother, but he tested positive for COVID?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
That's what happened?
I heard that, yeah. Geez. I don't know if it's true. Like, I haven't, like, done a deep dive, but that's what I heard.
That is... Wow. Damn.
Yeah.
Well, I wish him well if that is the case.
Well, that's saying something nice about Josh, that you're wishing him well.
Yes.
I will say, as much as I enjoyed the say something nice about Nelson format, I was concerned, I guess is probably the best word. Because, like, the way Nelson treats women, I find super problematic. And I didn't always feel super comfortable saying something nice about him when he had been so shitty. And, like, I agree with Lawrence. There's always someone annoying that's on every season.
Yeah.
And like, my concern would always be that, like, get 4 or 5 episodes into a season saying something nice about someone, and then they do something that we can't co-sign. Like, let's say we found D just as annoying, if not more annoying, at the start of the season. If we had done that, say something nice about D, and then, like, we found out that she was racist, like, halfway through, like, I would have been... Like, obviously we would have stopped that segment, but, like, I would have felt retroactively bad.
No, that's fair. And I think, though, one thing that we obviously do, as much as we make jokes, when it's time to be serious about something, we also do that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I will say something nice about Josh. I think that... I know you're probably going to disagree with the Sheldon. I think that Josh... often is very true to himself, and I know you find him fake. When I say he's true to himself, I mean like candid shots, like when he's flying off the handle, like Josh standing on that table and like losing his mind, or when Josh cries. Like, I think that's Josh being real. It's when he's in his like, oh, I'm gonna turn this house upside down, like I'm running shit mode. That's when he's being fake. But like,
okay,
I do think he's a passionate, emotional person, and like that's not necessarily bad. And I'm sure that in real life, he's a very nice person. Like, I understand why people like him, and we saw that in the sort of like reunion special where people are like, "Oh, Josh, like Josh just being Josh." Like, I think he's actually is a good person, just super annoying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jordan Reginato. Again, man, Jordan just peppered us with questions. Jordan went to Centennial with me. We know each other. IRL. If either of us were ever on the challenge, name your top 3 choices for who you would want to align with. And you can choose from anyone in the history of the show.
How many people? 3?
3. So like a proper alliance.
Okay. So I would align with Wes, Laurel, and do I have to pick another female?
You can do whatever you want.
Just to even it out?
It's your life.
And you know what? I'm going to choose Leroy. Because you need someone trustworthy.
Oh, that's interesting.
Just trustworthy people, gamers, a little bit of everything, you know. That's my squad.
I would go with Wes, Emily Schramm, and Laurel.
Okay.
Because I think Laurel can be a little, how can I put this, unstable?
Yeah.
She can be a little erratic, but Emily is very straightforward. And I think that, and obviously they would dominate in competitions. Those would be mine.
Okay.
I just realized that I missed so many questions. I missed a whole group of questions. But while that's waiting, I'm going to say, let me see if I can find them. I did find them. I was going to say, Rochella Valdez also asked along those lines, who would your ideal partner be? Rochella also asks, who do you think you could beat in a hall brawl?
No one.
You don't think you could beat anyone in a hall brawl?
Like, in that, like, me currently right now.
Yeah.
Me currently right now, I'm, like, sore from a Friday morning workout in the park. Right? Like, my body is sore still from yesterday's workout in the morning with, like, 40-pound medicine balls and kettlebells in the park. I'm sore from that. So,
okay.
Yeah, I don't really like my chances too much, even against, like, I don't know, who's the smallest male competitor. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're all really big. Here's one thing I'll say. I think they're all shorter than we realize.
True, that's fair. That's fair.
But the thing is, they're all significantly more muscular than either of us.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, I'm struggling to even think of, like, one person that I'd be like, yep, I think I could confidently take this dude. Like, it just, now, if you told me, and it's funny I'm saying this, but if you told me, hey, you're going on a challenge in 6 months or whatever.
Oh, yeah, then we can talk.
Yeah. But, like, me right now, like, I'm sore sitting here on my couch talking to you.
I think, yeah, if I had 6 months to get ready, like, I'm a fairly large human being. So, like, the thing is, I'm not particularly muscular. So if I had time to put on, like, 10 or 15 pounds of muscle.
The only thing that would be the savior is that, clearly there are some people who, as we talk about all the time, don't want the contact, right? But playing contact sports, like, whatever, like, I know how to run as if I was carrying a football. So it's like, at least in that instance, you might have an advantage over some people who have not done that. Mm-hmm. Right? So that'd be interesting.
Kay Sung wants to know, are we as handsome as we sound? Asking for her and her other friend here, wink, blow, kiss emoji. Should say Kay is one of my best friends. Like, she has met both of us many times. She went to high school with us. She knows exactly how handsome we are, which is to say, we are as handsome as we sound, if not more so. Your thoughts, Sheldon Alexander?
I did that on purpose, by the way.
I know you did.
I got nothing. Yeah, I don't know. I see. Again, I dislike my voice, so.
Really?
Yeah. This is. Let's move on. Next question.
Rochella wants to know, between the two of us, who would be better at politicking?
Not me. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It would definitely be me.
Yeah, definitely not me.
I don't want to be a dick, but, like,
definitely not me. When I'm cheese, and if I don't like you, you know I don't like you. You know that I don't fuck with you. I was gonna say something and I can't say it. I don't want to say it so bad. But
see, that's the thing. You wouldn't be able to hold it in.
Yeah, people that have known me for a really long time, like obviously my friends, but even people that aren't my friends, like, but have known me for a long time, or even just acquaintances, it's pretty quick to tell if I don't fuck with someone at all. Like, like, yeah.
Rochella, she had, like, a whole string of questions about, like, how we would do on the show.
Okay.
She also wants to know, what are each of our strengths and weaknesses, like puzzles, swimming, endurance?
So, okay. I'd like to think I'd be good at puzzles.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that if I was going on the challenge, I would train, so my endurance would be good. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I'd be ready for it, right? Like, I'd run a lot and be ready for the endurance side of it. But I also think a really good quality that I would bring to the table is loyalty. I would keep my word. You would know that I would be trustworthy. I'm not going to turn my back. I'm not going to double cross or whatever. I'm going to play a straight and honest game. And maybe that might end up being a fatal flaw at some point because it's not how the game is played. But I'd be okay with that.
Okay. All right. I think endurance would probably be my strength. Like, I've run 5 or 6 half marathons. I've done the gross grind a couple of times. For those of you that don't know what the gross grind is, in Vancouver, there's a 2-kilometer hike, but it's basically on a 45-degree angle. So it really challenges you because the air gets really thin really fast, and it's a very steep climb. So I've done that 2 or 3 times. So, like, I think I'd do okay. I don't know. I'm an okay swimmer, although I don't swim often anymore. I wonder about the politicking because, like, I have a pretty bad temper, when I get like worked up, and like I don't know that I'd be able to like keep it under control for like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But I do think I'd be pretty good at the politicking. I don't know. It's a good question.
Pretty good question. I would suck at the math equations. I would tell you that. Not because I'm terrible at math, but because of the pressure of it all. Like, I'm okay at math, but let's just say, as soon as calculators became like an acceptable thing, like, why would I ever be worried about math?
Man, I mean, I failed grade 12 math, and my grade 12 math teacher, Mr. Oki, shout out Mr. Oki, he and I struck a deal where he would pass me if I promised to never take math again. And let's just say we both lived up to our end of the bargain.
Hey.
Eric wants to know, which competitors have changed your opinion of them, good or bad, over the seasons?
Sorry, repeat that for me?
Which competitors have you like changed your mind about over the seasons?
Ooh, that's like, pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So, when I started watching the show, like I said, Fresh Meat 2 was the first season I watched. And then I'm going to be honest, I was in a really bad place in my life. Like, my life was shit. And so I spent a lot of time just watching, like, streaming old seasons of The Challenge. Like, I think I binge watched maybe 15 seasons of The Challenge and The Real World from MTV.ca. Like, I would just be at work and I would just like bang out 3 episodes on my work computer screen. And so I like absorbed it all, like everything from like the Duel to Fresh Meat 2. Like, I just went through them all. The Gauntlet series, the Duels, Cutthroat, like all that whole like period of time. And at that point, I really liked the so-called JEK Empire. That's Johnny, Evan, and Kenny.
Yes.
And like for a bunch of reasons. Like at that time, you sort of alluded to it. Kenny and Evan were arguably more dominant than Johnny. And like I thought they were really funny, and Evan's Canadian, and to that point had been the only Canadian on the show, and like I don't know, I was like really into them, and I hated Wes.
Yep.
But my opinions have changed on them. Obviously, we won't get into details, but Evan and Kenny are no longer welcome on the show. I've matured, and like if I go back and watch those seasons, I don't think as highly as they do of them as I once did. Wes has really grown on me because we've really seen him mature, just like we've seen CT mature. It also helps that Wes has been very kind to you and I on a personal level, coming on the show, answering our questions. And so like as for me, as like Wes's stock has gone up, Johnny, Evan, and Kenny's stock has gone down for me. And like I think it's as much a reflection on where I am as a person as where they are as people. But yeah, for me that's the big change.
Yeah, I just think that's natural though, right? Like when we're 20 years old watching 20-year-olds be 20-year-olds, right? It's you view it in a different light than you do when you're 30 and watching 20-year-olds be 20-year-olds. So that's kind of like a natural thing. So I think, you know, as I overall look at a bunch of different people, and for the most part, as you mentioned, even Bananas, Wes, CT, Nani, like we've seen these people, Anissa, we've seen these people grow up. Like they've been in our lives on TV for like 20 years. And maybe Leroy is like the only person who's kind of been the same, and even still you've seen him mature on a different level as well, but I'm saying like just a difference. Do you know what I mean? Like Wes is different, obviously he's grown up, matured. Banana, same thing, but it's kind of natural, right? Like it's what you'd expect. CT might be the biggest example of that. Kara is just like a different person. Like she just seems. I don't even know how to describe Kara.
I used to really like Kara, and now I don't. Also, we spoke about this a lot last season, but Corey has come a long way, and like I want to give credit to Corey. He's really matured, and like as he's matured, I've liked him a lot more. But as you said, when you're like we're both in our mid-30s, when you're in your mid-30s, the shit that people do in their mid-20s or early 20s is not nearly as amusing as when it was when you were in your mid-20s. For sure. Like it's as much a reflection as where we are as where they are.
It kind of makes me wonder about what was the thing you were talking about before that was being floated about the OGs versus
Mark Long has sort of a thing going online where he wants an OG only season of the challenge. So bring back like
I don't want an OG only. I want OGs versus newbies, right?
Yeah. My concern with that is like unless they've got like old man strength competitions.
Yeah.
Like I mean, maybe I'm just thinking about how my own knees hurt so much on a daily basis. I just don't know that like I don't know that physical competitions would be fair when you have someone who's like 27 in their prime. Sure. Even though like Mark Long and like Darrell are and like what's the other guy's name?
But do you really? I don't know if I want to see that. Only OGs, like I don't know if I want to see that. I don't.
Nah, I'd like to keep it moving. I would for sure like to see like. Again, we've mentioned her a few times, like Emily Schramm come back.
Yeah.
Who's in great shape and like but I think they need like a 10-year age range. Like this past season was pretty good.
But also if you say, we're talking about different themes, and if one of the teams, with the Battle of the Seasons is just like an OG team.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe something like that works.
Yeah, I'd be into that for sure. Let's take a look at the list here. Eric also wants to know, are we watching old seasons on the CBS app? I'm not. Are you?
No.
I will say...
Can't say that I am.
I'm all in on this season of Big Brother. Davon's on it, Bailey's on it, Cody, Paulie's brother, is on it. Josh was supposed to be on it. So and like there's a lot of people that I watched the first 5 or 6 seasons of Big Brother and then I took a big break. So there's like people on it that I know, like Janelle, and there's like a few people I've seen before, like Ian. So like I'm in on this season, but like I'm not really. There's a lot of other things I'd like to watch that's new to me rather than go back and rehash old seasons. I might at some point like binge watch one.
So I have not watched Big Brother at all, and it was just because the timing of it, right? Like when it started right when sports was coming back, and Big Brother is a weird thing with me. Like I get into it mostly because it's the summertime and there's not much else going on. Yeah. And so I can say I'm going to watch, 3 times a week, watch Big Brother. But even with that said, I'm still bored with it very soon. And I just keep kind of watching just because it's on. Not really because it's really good. And as much as we talk about the challenge in terms of it starts off hot and then calms down in the middle once you get kind of like the wild cards out or the, all the fun people out. With Big Brother, it's even worse. And so I was kind of interested in some of the people that would be in the house. Like, it'd be cool to see Davon again, of course. But overall, I just wasn't enough there to kind of get me in on this season of Big Brother.
Yeah, fair
enough. Is it good? Are you enjoying it?
I'm enjoying it. It's a little... It confirms for me why I prefer the challenge.
Okay. Yeah.
Like when we see the competitions, I'm like, challenge competitions are more legit. And also, I don't know if it's just that it's an all-star season or what, but I'm finding that the people on Big Brother are not making moves. You know, like they're playing and making. This isn't like a big spoiler, but there's early on alliance of 6 people formed, and then 3 people in that alliance formed a new alliance of 6 people.
Okay.
So I'm just like, all right, so like 9 of the like 14 people in the house are in alliances that have shared interests. Like, it's not very exciting for me. Whereas the challenge format, yes, there's alliances, but because the challenge changes up its format every season, sometimes there's no point in having an alliance. And like, you sort of have to, like, I don't know, push comes to shove more on an individual level in the challenge.
No, I got you.
Chauncey Talese, I hope I'm saying that right. Chauncey Talese wants to know, which challengers do you wish were still on the show? And we've sort of touched on this.
Yeah, we did that already. Yeah.
But he also wants to know, for a bonus question from his wife, which current challenger do we wish wouldn't get invited back? I'm going to assume that D does not count, because D is not coming back.
For sure. I don't know if there's someone that, like, even as much as I say I dislike Josh, he still provides at least one episode of entertainment of him getting dissed or him losing. So, like, I don't want to not see him on the show completely. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I don't know. There isn't anyone. I guess, like, if I had to pick someone, I guess it would be Josh. But at the same time, like, no, I'm fine with, like, in doses, small doses, playing the role of you being the butt of the jokes and then getting eliminated. Yeah.
I would be happy if we never saw Turbo again.
Oh. Okay.
I know there's some people that really love Turbo.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, I just think he should probably go on, like, Survivor or something.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, he can't.
Or, like, Ultimate Tag or whatever that. Something just different. The challenge is about, like, wanting to sit and hang out with people as well. That's a huge part of watching this show, wanting to sit around and hang out with people. And I don't think anyone wants to really sit around and hang out with Turbo.
He's too serious for me. And, like, I know that, like, part of it is, like, cultural differences, and I feel bad, but just, like, I can't get excited for a season with him, because, like, yes, he's physically dominant, but, like, he's too serious, he's too, like, easily offended, and, like, it's not entertaining when he gets offended. Like, I don't know, I don't find him very good television. I find him off-putting, so.
Yeah, I mean, I would be okay if we didn't see Kara again.
Yeah.
And she's a, like, massive character to the franchise, but at the same time, it just became too annoying. Like, some people, their energy is just too, like, sad and mad and depressing all the time, and it's just like, get out of here.
Well, I've pointed this out in the past, and, like, it's not even my idea, but Wes made the point that being on the show for so many seasons in a row is detrimental to your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we saw that play out with Kara, and I was really glad, just, like, on a personal level, that Kara took a season off.
Yeah.
And Pauly took a season off. Like, I think it would be good. Like, I think they're too deep in the weeds, and, like, maybe I wouldn't be mad if they took 2 or 3 seasons off.
Oh, not they're coming back for sure.
Oh, they're for sure coming back. But just, like, I think it would be really good for them on a personal level, and also to mature. Like, they got into some weird, like, game playing, like, trying to manipulate people in real life, and, like, sometimes you just need to press pause and take a step back. And I'm like, I'm glad to see them take a step back, and I'm okay if like 2023 they return. You know what I mean? Like, I'd like to see them get a few years under their belts to figure some things out.
No, for sure. For sure.
Rochella asks, if you didn't work in sports, what would you be doing?
I would still be working in TV somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Don't know with what, but definitely probably be working in TV somewhere, doing something else.
I have wanted to be a writer of some sort since I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe younger, 8 or 9. Like, I was always into writing. For a long time, I wanted to be a comic book writer.
Mm-hmm.
I really like history. For a while, I considered, like, in my early 20s, I considered getting my PhD and becoming, like, a history professor. So I think along those lines, like teaching and writing or just writing, not a journalist, but, like, more fiction or, like, historical books. I'd be into that. Yeah, something along those lines.
Cool.
Perhaps more realistically, working retail at a bookstore.
Okay.
I think you've heard this story, Sheldon, but I used to work at the world's biggest bookstore, which was exactly what it sounds like. It was a very large bookstore in downtown Toronto. And
imagine if you were like, no, we sold T-shirts.
Yeah, that's it. It's a great burrito place. I was training to be a forklift driver, and I had my forklift licensing exam, but then I got called in to do an interview with the Canadian press.
Oh.
So I skipped my forklift examination and went to the CP interview, got the job at CP, came in to work at the world's biggest bookstore, and my boss was like, what the fuck? Like, we had because, like, for forklift licensing, you have to pay the licensor to come to your premises, right? Like, it's not like you go to, like, a spot. Yeah. And he's like, we paid this guy to come and, like, showed. Like, we were paying, and I was like, well, I quit. And he's like, I'm sorry, what? I'm like, you heard me. Like, I quit. I just got a new job. Like, I was at a job interview. Instead of this, I quit. And he's like, I'm going to need that in writing. And I, like, literally took, like, a grease pencil or, like, magic marker or something and, like, a scrap piece of paper and wrote, like, I quit. Sincerely, John Shidley Hill. Like, this is my 2 weeks notice. So maybe I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for CP. Maybe I'd still be, like, a manager at an Indigo or Chapters or Kohl's or whatever, since they're all the same chain.
All right.
And finally, Sheldon, we made it. Our final question from Kate Eden. Will you consider covering other shows like Big Brother or even movies from the MCU, the Marvel Comics universe, Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Yeah, I think we've kind of talked about that before as a possibility if something was big enough, like, and also too, if something big enough was going on and we had the time, because that's also really the biggest factor, right? The biggest factor is definitely time, but it's definitely on the table, and I think it's one of the things too where we would definitely take suggestions. Like, if there were a lot of people that were like, hey, you guys really should be watching, I don't know, Selling Sunset.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And we should do a recap on that. If there are enough people in the mentions talking about something like that, we definitely take it under consideration. But the biggest thing always comes down to time, right? Like, as mentioned, we do a lot of these things on our off days or free time or whatever, which, we love it and we enjoy doing it, but there's a line still, right? So, and again, it comes down to how many people would be into that. Yeah. Right? So, and we don't know. So let us know what you guys think.
It's tough, too, because the format of our show works best when it's an episodic show released once per week. Like, we couldn't do it if it's, like, a streaming show where they're all dropped at once.
Yeah.
Like, we couldn't do it for Selling Sunset or, like, Stranger Things or whatever.
Yeah, you just have to do, like, the full season recap or something like that. But yeah, I gotcha.
And so that limits it to a cable show or a network show. Big Brother is too often per week for us to do it. Like,
yeah, I mean, we could do once a week recaps of Big Brother, I guess. When's the elimination night? Sundays? I don't remember. Thursdays. So, like, in theory, you could do it on Fridays, but as mentioned, right? Like, maybe during the summer. Oh, wow. It is summer right now.
Summer's almost over, Sheldon.
Well, do you know what I mean? Like a quote-unquote normal summer?
Yeah.
Right? Where, like, there isn't NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, baseball going on all at the same time. Maybe that could work. But, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, it all comes down to suggestions as well. Because, as mentioned, right, we do the show, but this is also your show as a viewer. So, if there's something you guys really want us to talk about, let us know. And we'll take it into consideration.
Yeah. Sheldon's right. The big consideration is time. And the thing that would also be a consideration is, like, let's say we got into recapping Selling Sunset as an example. I don't know why we're sticking to that, but let's say that's what we're doing.
Have you ever seen Selling Sunset, by the way?
No, I haven't even seen the trailer. I know people are, like, into it, but
yeah, I'm just going to say that. I don't want to go on a tangent about Selling Sunset. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. But, like, what if we got into doing that and then the challenge started up? Then we're, like, committed to doing 2 podcasts?
Yeah. Like,
that would be tough. Even more tough. And, like, I'm starting my second job in 2 weeks. So, like, I'll have 2 jobs at the same time. I personally also have limitations in terms of what I can podcast about. Like, CP has a right of first refusal for content I put out. So, like, I'm fine putting out the challenge podcast.
Yeah.
But I have to be careful. Like, I can't cover Canadian things. Like, I couldn't cover Schitt's Creek as an example.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
I gotcha.
I like the idea, but I don't know. It'd be tough. Maybe we could do like Raw. Do some pro wrestling because I know you're such a fan.
Wrestling.
I did one other thing I wanted to say. I was so tempted because your birthday just passed. Is it passed or is it coming up? Just passed. I was so tempted to get you a book that was like an illustrated guide to tanks. just so you could like, you know, get up to speed in case the challenge went back to like the Czech Republic or like Ukraine or something.
Okay. I don't think the challenge is going back to the bunker. I don't think so.
I think that was a failed experiment.
Yeah, they're like, this one, I don't know if that one worked. Next year, guaranteed, they're going somewhere. There's going to be a beach. There's going to be a beach house, a big-ass pool party, first night. They get in the challenge house. It's going back to basics for sure.
It's going to be very tropical. It's going to get steamy in more ways than one. Where can the good people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Shell Alexander, on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander, and please continue to like and subscribe to the You Killed It podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud and Google Play and all that fun stuff, and like and subscribe to the On Blast podcast network. Woo! You got a bunch of stuff there. As mentioned, a couple Raptors podcasts, basketball podcast, and you know, we're on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube though. Like and subscribe to the YouTube page. You can watch our videos whenever we do stuff like this on You Killed It. You can find the video portion online. Just search my name, Sheldon Alexander, or On Blast Podcast. You can find us there for sure. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends.
And if you follow us on YouTube, then you don't have to ask if we're as handsome as we sound. You can see for yourselves how handsome we are.
That might ruin the allure, though.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at jchidleyhill. I'm doing my weekly golf column. We don't talk about that a lot. Okay. I do a weekly golf column looking specifically at Canadian golfers.
Okay.
So Brooke Henderson, Elena Sharp, Corey Connors, Mackenzie Hughes, who's tearing it up this weekend, Adam Hadwin, Nick Taylor, Taylor Pendrith, the whole gang.
Okay.
Yeah, comes out every Wednesday morning. I usually tweet that. Otherwise, it's always a surprise what I cover. Covered Major League Soccer live. I was in a stadium.
Hey.
You don't know what I'll cover till I know what I'll
Sports.
cover. So follow me on those social medias. And until whenever, this was You Killed It.
You killed